So we're going to move right into our panel 6. Our next panelist is the host of the Humanity Matters podcast. He is the doctorate in he has a doctorate in organizational leadership from Regent University, is an author, a teacher, and the executive director of the City Hope Outreach. Please help me welcome Dr. Phillip Fletcher. Everybody's looking around, and he's coming from this side. There he is.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir. Joining Phillip will be our next panelist, who has been reviewing snus products. If you don't know what that is, he's going to educate you about that. His followers encouraged him to start a website and helped him grow an international brand known as Snubie. He has been podcasting since 2014. Welcome, Chad Jones. Bo had the audacity to drink on stage and on the desk. Oh, okay. Yeah. Whatever your brand is, that might be your brand. Either way, welcome, gentlemen. If you don't mind, just talk a little bit about what your content is. What is your podcast about? Why did you get into podcasting? And what are some of the lessons that you've learned? Phillip, if you don't mind to start us off.
Yeah, so my podcast is called Humanity Matters Podcast, and my focus is the affirmation of human dignity, that every human being, every individual, regardless of what you believe, what you look like, where you're from, how you vote, how much money you got, every individual has dignity and worth, and that is to be affirmed. So my podcast circles around that, from how it relates to politics, sports, comic books, movies, whatever. Bring on different interviewees from politicians, everyday people. But then also I dig into old stuff, old quotes, old things, and see what you can pull out of there so that individuals can be inspired and motivated to be courageous and be kind and loving and generous in this world. So that's what I do.
I feel bad because I was listening to some of the people that were talking, and everybody seems so like influential, I guess would be the word, like doing something that actually matters. And then I'm just I would fit the definition of influencer, I suppose. I have an interest in, well, I guess I'll try to sum this up in like 30 seconds. I'll do my best. But about 13 years ago, I quit smoking, discovering next generation nicotine products and things that are able to transition people from combustible cigarettes into safer nicotine alternatives. And I started blogging about that. And I did the complete opposite. I'm the video to audio guy. I started with blogs and video and then transitioned to audio because my video audience wanted audio. So I primarily talk to people about things like that, help them quit smoking. But I also am an enthusiast of next generation smokeless nicotine products. And that's primarily my bread and butter. I have my own product line. I have a factory in Europe. And, aside from that, I engage with my audience daily. So it's funny because about 2 or 3 years ago, I was in college getting my bachelor's degree, and you spoke at my college. And it's ironic because I was planning to get my degree. I went into government work, and I worked for a state agency and wore the suit, the tie, and all that good stuff. And then what I was doing in my free time, podcasting, my hobby, became my full-time job, and I went into doing that. So it's funny where life takes you. You never know.
Awesome.
So Dr. Fletcher.
You were good.
I appreciate that. I think, it's funny you say that as a job creator. A job is the greatest solution to those who are in poverty. So wherever your product that you're creating, right, and that you mentioned that you do it in Europe, right, and you're providing a way out for somebody else who may not have had a way before. So what you started out in blogging, and then how it transformed into new technology, right, and how that is help somebody else, obviously health-wise, but then also economically. That's power. That's what it's all about. So I would tell you, don't diminish what you're doing, because you're adding value to somebody's life and some family's life moving forward.
I feel bad.
Don't feel bad. Celebrate yourself.
Everybody's been so inspirational so far.
Yeah. So sometimes it's good to pat yourself on the back.
Yeah.
All right. I started in 2018 podcasting. That was your other question. So that's how I write a lot. That's my thing. And so for me, writing turns into speaking. And then somebody one day was like, you need to like put this on a podcast or whatever. I was like, okay, sure. So looked up Anchor and just pulled it out on my phone. And so I'm always thinking about something and I'll just start talking into it. And that's how it started from there. And it's been going on 4 seasons, 7, I don't know. I just like to talk to people.
You said 2018 is when you started?
Yeah, 2018. Yeah, so that would have been, so I guess it was a great time because that was during Trump's administration. So it gave a lot to talk about. And then, you know, COVID happened. That gave a lot more to talk about. And then the protests, that gave a lot more to talk about. So you had like content like just coming. So if you didn't start a podcast then, I was like, everybody's at home anyway. Just start a podcast and talk about where you like mask or don't like mask, or where you like to be locked down or don't. I mean, everybody has something to talk about. And so that, for me, there was a lot of idea generation from there. And so from just my process, there's the idea. And then from there, oh, there's a video and then a podcast and then an Instagram post and then an Instagram video or whatever, and just feed off all of that and just roll into the next week and just keep it going. And so I love it. It's fun.
Very nice. And you said you've had guests from politicians and local leaders and that type of thing. So how do you get them on a podcast when you're still fairly recent, right? So 2018, I know it seems like a long time ago now because we've been through a lot. Yeah. But it's only been 4 years. Yeah. So did you use your position in the community, or did you just I have the bravery to ask?
I've lived in Arkansas for 15 years, and through my nonprofit work that I do in Conway, I have a lot of, I call it currency that I've built up over the years with different people. And then when the podcast came along, I was like, hey, do you want to come on the podcast? So political world, I've, interviewed Governor Asa Hutchinson, Congressman French Hill, Senator Joyce Elliott, all of those individuals up and down the chain politically, and then different economists and the like. And so a lot of that has been a lot of goodwill. And it's like, hey, will you reach out and do an interview with me? Sometimes you got to like keep knocking on people's doors because they get so big. You got to wade through all these gatekeepers, which is fine. But then sometimes because I have their direct phone number in line, I'll be like, hey, would you do this for me? And be like, yeah. So it's good to be kind to people. You just be kind to people and be generous. And I would even say, if you're a podcaster, give stuff away. Like, I'll go out on the street downtown Conway, I'll just give away t-shirts. And they'll be like, what? And I was like, you just got to be kind to somebody and check out this podcast.
For free?
Yeah.
Free.
Yeah. I have sponsors.
What a concept.
The sponsors pay the t-shirts, and then I just go and give them away. And yeah.
Awesome.
I will say that, I mean, I that just from in my line of work, freebies are like the lifeblood of what we do. So not just t-shirts, but I have made some of the dumbest things ever to give out to people, like beer koozies. I mean, you think of radio stations handing those out at fairs and stuff like that, but I code everything I hand out, so if somebody hits a link, I know where it comes from. But like, I've hit so much traffic off of beer koozies of all things, so giveaways are incredibly important.
So Chad, you say you started off just reviewing smokeless tobacco products because that's what you were transitioning into. Mm-hmm. You said, I might as well document this and do reviews for these. Mm-hmm. How do you go from that to having your own factory?
I know it's been the craziest ride. With podcasting, one of the things I've noticed is that you look at certain things, and there's so many, politics, religion, sports. I'm a big hockey guy, a lot of hockey podcasts. I happened to fall ass backwards into a niche that nobody else was doing. So, and nobody else has really got into it since. So I got very lucky. That's why I always tell people, I have friends that all the time say they want to start a podcast. And I'm like, find your weirdest hobby or your weirdest interest that you don't think anybody has interest in, and do that, because someone will listen to it. So I got lucky and I started doing this thing, and, the audience grew. And I'll tell you, in the beginning, it sucks because it's very slow. I was sitting there watching numbers and was getting, 1,000 page views a week. And I'm like, well, okay, well, those 1,000 people, they matter. So, and then over time, and then within about 5 years, it's like million, 2 million, 3 million. And I'm like, who are these people? And the metrics and stuff, it's so much fun watching those. But from that, it became, okay, so people listen to you and your voice matters. We want to partner with you. And then, I'd start doing little collaborations here and there with people and things like that. And then eventually it came up with, hey, we're a team of investors. You're very popular in what you do. We want to pump a few $1 million into this idea and give you a factory where you can make your own stuff. So I started doing that and launched that last month, and it's been incredible. I mean, I didn't expect this would be where my life is right now, but sometimes your passions and your hobbies will manifest in such a way that you just don't expect. And it's been an incredible blessing because I liked my 9-to-5 job, but it became so mundane after a while that I was like, I don't want to do this forever. And I like now that every day I can wake up and know that I'm loving what I do and I'm putting food on the table for my kids, but I'm happy about it. I'm proud of it. And that for me is important, being proud of what I do, but also making money. So, I mean, we all like money.
Dr. Fletcher.
Yes.
So how do you find your audience and how do you connect with them?
Facebook. I say something controversial or ridiculous on Facebook. And I play both sides. People can't pin me down. And from there, I will have people on multiple sides of an issue come and listen to my stuff. I have my own hard line like things, but I don't usually voice those. I want to bring people to the table and again, discuss this idea about human dignity and human flourishing. And are you willing to listen and sit with another individual who's fundamentally different than you in what they believe or how they see the world, but can you affirm their dignity and worth as a human being? And so from there, I'll have all types of individuals on. Obviously, I'll get all types of interesting email from all types of sides, which is good because then that gives me more stuff to talk about. And so I treat my Facebook and then my podcast essentially like a classroom. And so then what happens is I teach at Philander ethics and moral theory, and I treat it no differently. And so then if you go on my Facebook page and you see all this stuff, people going back and forth, for me, it's a classroom. I have rules, like you can't disrespect anybody and all that kind of stuff, because that's my brand. Like everybody's got dignity, so you can disagree. But from there, I take that information, I do some more study. I'm like, okay, good, you've given me something to talk about, and we'll keep it going. And again, that'll either be audio and or video, turn it into a meme on Instagram and stuff. But that keeps people coming back again to the podcast because it's like flies on stuff, and it's good. It is. It really is.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you can.
Did you watch?
Would you like a microphone?
I'll pause for a second.
I'm on your podcast. Go ahead.
I know.
Yeah.
Did you see Kumar Bell on CNN? What he did with the KKK when he went and visited in Harrison and talked to them, and he was very gracious with them.
Yes.
What's the most controversial guest, I guess you would say, that you've talked with?
I talked with a white supremacist member at a local coffee shop in Conway. I recorded it. He asked not for it to be released, which I said, that's fine. I'll respect that. But we sat down and I simply asked him, why do you believe what you believe? Why is it that you view someone who looks like me in the way in which you view it? And he laid out, now hear me when I say this, very rational and logical arguments. I did not say I agreed with what he said, but he laid out very rational and reasonable arguments to his position. There's a thought from a Jewish rabbi, Martin Buber, who talks about the I vow, and that when you are in a conversation with somebody, and Martin Luther King in his work in the civil rights movement practiced a similar thing, that you have to be able to understand your own position, but also the position of another. So if you're a podcaster and you want to interview somebody, you got to understand the other side, especially if you're going to deal with controversial type things. Doesn't mean you have to agree with the side, but can you articulate what it is that individual or that group is saying? That way you can have a conversation with them. And you develop at some level, a level of sympathy. Again, it does not mean you agree, but I could sympathize with his concern about family, his concern about legacy, his concern about economics, because I have the same concern about family, legacy, economics. Our path there is radically different, but at least I can understand you. And so then Martin Buber goes on to say that you enter into this sacred space between two individuals, right? And then we're in this space, right? And then when I walk away and you walk away, that does not mean I have to agree with you, you have to agree with me, but we understand one another, but fundamentally remembering we're both human beings. And then at some point, because that relationship has been cultivated, maybe there's some change that can happen. Maybe you won't look at me like a pejorative, all right? I forgot this being recorded, all right? But somehow I can move you closer to a position that is humanizing and not dehumanizing. So that's my most controversial. And to this day, we still talk. Yeah, and that's that stuff. That's what, when I talk about humanity matters, that's what I talk about. Because if I brought somebody on and I said, man, you crazy. Like, I hope they round you up and, yada, 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 yada. But that would go against my brand and what it is I fundamentally believe when I'm trying to communicate and inspire to other people. So
that relates a lot to the audience as well, because when I look at, like my audience and the content I put out and what they listen to and how they consume it, they can tell a lot with how you approach something, with your like sincerity on the subject matter and where you're at personally with that. And that's one of the things that I've had over the years. Like what I do I do all mine on my own. Everything, social media, podcasting, video editing, audio editing, like I do all that on my own. I don't have a team, it's all me. So that's one of the things that I've always really focused on was audience engagement, because, the people that listen to you are also people that have families and friends and hearts and souls and their stories and what they bring when they listen to you. So, that's one of the things that I've always approached as well is really engaging with people, not just the people that I bring on, but the people that, consume what I put out there, because they're ultimately the ones that are putting food in my kids' mouths. So, in addition to the guests, that's something that I always found important, because a lot of times we can get so wrapped up in metrics and looking at numbers and say, we have this age demographic and we have this, and what I do, it's like 2% female and like 98% male, but I still like to look at it. But everything can become a number in what we do, but there's a human behind every single one of those numbers. And that's one of the most important things that I always try to drive home about doing this, is that those numbers matter, and really engage with those numbers as much as you can.
My furthest one is, well, I guess it depends on which way you're going. Netherlands and Australia. I don't know how that works, but from Arkansas, I don't know which one's further. Yeah, but that's my furthest. And my demographic, I did a series on raising boys to become men. The highest demographic was more women than men. Yeah, which was interesting. But then when I talked about political stuff, it's higher on men. But yeah, that's been two of my interest in, where they skew higher on one demographic than the other. Just pay attention to that.
It helps if you unmute it. If the people here wanted to become part of that demographic that listens to you, where would they go to listen to your show?
Oh, that's right. That's right. Humanity Matters Podcast on all podcast outlets. You can go to the website, phillipfletcher.org. It's on that banner over there. As also, you can check out my nonprofit, CoHO58.org. We're building small homes in Conway, Arkansas for the homeless and veterans. Y'all should come check it out and see it. Just come up to 40, get off on Dave Ward, come down Harkrider, make a right on Robbins. You'll see some small homes being built. Conway's a great place. But yeah, you can check out the podcast as well, Humanity Matters, on my website, phillipfletcher.org or coho58.org. Appreciate y'all. Like, subscribe, share, review.
Chad, you?
So pretty much mine, if you go online and you look up any information about smokeless tobacco or next generation nicotine products, you'll find my face. Google, YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Anchor, everywhere. Snubie, Snubie. I don't know if any of you are smokers, but if you're looking to quit smoking, it's been my passion for 13 years now, is helping save lives. So if any of you need any help or assistance with that, I'm always here to help. And I want to thank Ty for doing this, because this is really freaking cool. I mean,
You guys are creating all the content. I just got you here on stage.
when I started podcasting, I'm not familiar. I mean, other than the one in Texas, I think we've talked about this, but I don't know of any that have come here to Arkansas. So just it's super cool that you did this, and I hope this helps a lot of people. So like, props. It's cool, man.
Do you have something else?
No, I don't have
Okay. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Let's give them a round of applause. And we're running a little late on time.